Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Random Chatter Reviews. This is episode number 379. I am joined tonight by Tim and Eric, and we are here to discuss the new releases and stuff we've been watching for the last week or so. First off, Eric, how are you doing?
I'm doing much better now. I had a stomach flu this week and was bedridden for bed/couch ridden for a couple of days. It was, probably the worst illness I've had in 10 years. It was bad.
That is, stomach issues are never fun.
It took me days of just chugging Gatorade to finally rehydrate, but I'm feeling much better now. Still a little bit recovering, but very, very happy to be back here on a podcast and getting to do something fun to wrap up the week. I'm very happy about that.
Awesome. And Tim, how are you?
Doing well. Excited to be here. We just did a great episode of Force Chatter talking about the new Kenobi teaser.
Right. Yeah.
And talked about some, news is starting to come out about Star Wars Celebration, so we're getting excited about that. And we've got Moon Knight coming up at the end of this month, so I'm really stoked about that. So yeah.
Some cool stuff. But in the meantime, we have stuff that we've all watched this past week. So kind of first up here, this is a pay-per-view streaming piece, I guess, that I have not seen yet, but you guys, I think, did watch this. The newest Scream movie, which is just titled Scream.
Tim, did you see it?
Oh, I did not. No.
Okay, just
all
Eric.
Right. So,
well, I'm sure there are a lot of other people that saw it too, but none of them are
just
here.
Eric.
I'm the only
Eric's the only one. Oh, okay.
Hollywood made this film just for me. They said, we're sorry for having created the pandemic. We're going to make you this film to make up for it. And I said, it's not enough, but it's a good start. Thank you. No, it's so this is the 2002 reboot of Scream, and I say that very specifically. And it's interesting because I think that when people talk about remakes versus reboots versus relaunches and this and that, all this different terminology for these things, I think that this is the best example of the difference between a reboot and a remake. Something like Child's Play would be a remake. They took the original movie and they made a new version of it. The franchise has kind of died out, and they are relaunching the franchise, rebooting the franchise without getting rid of the stuff that came before it. So, I think.
So I see it's got all the same names we had before, right? We have Nev Campbell, Courtney Cox. Okay.
So, some brief background. I will keep it brief. I loved the original Scream movie. I thought it was nice to see them do something that was different, something that was meta, which wasn't really done at the time. I thought it was clever. I thought the reveal of who the killers were, again, something we normally don't get to see. And I really liked it. The movies after that was kind of stringing it along a little bit, and they're never, especially in the horror movie franchise, sequels are almost never.
I was going to say, like horror movies do, It's like we get 18 versions of the same thing. It's like, oh, please.
Yeah, and this kind of fell.
I haven't seen the first one since it came out, but I remember it being kind of new and fresh for what it was.
I still watch it again from time to time.
I don't remember the exact end of it, but I think I want to go back and watch it.
I think it holds up. I've seen it relatively recently. And even the sequels, they weren't bad. They just weren't nearly as good. Not nearly as good. This one was pretty good. They did kind of try to do something new with it. And the things that weren't new about it were intentional, and the movie kind of explained why. And it was a little bit of a commentary on reboots and remakes and, horror movies and things like that. Kind of like the first one was. It was kind of meta. Not in an annoying way like the Matrix Resurrections, but in a way that actually fit the story and made sense better, I think, with the story. And it wasn't perfect, but I liked it. If you like the first Scream movie and are ambivalent toward the others, you will probably enjoy this. It's not going to be your favorite movie ever. Might not even be your favorite horror movie, but it's worth a watch. It was clever, and it was good. And they didn't rely on the old characters enough to break the story or to cause to be a big happy reunion sort of thing. Like it was focused on the new characters, and the older characters were only in a supporting role, but it made sense for them to be there.
Okay.
I was surprised that it didn't suck. I was pleasantly
That's
surprised.
high praise.
I mean, it really is, honestly, because when you do something like this, you expect it to kind of suck. It didn't. It was at least solidly good. Some people will probably say it's very good. I don't know if I'm at that point, but yeah, I don't regret watching it at all. I was happy to have watched it.
Okay, awesome. Maybe something I'll have to check out. Next up, we have a Netflix release. This is a new Ryan Reynolds movie called The Adam Project that we got a trailer for maybe a month ago, and I think we were all pretty hyped for it back when that first came out. And of course, you know, I look forward to everything Ryan Reynolds does, so it was anticipated for that reason.
Ryan Reynolds is my spirit animal.
Have we all seen this, all three of us?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. And Tim, what do you think?
You know, I thought it was a lot of fun. Good movie. It was. I mean, it's a little tropey. It's a time travel movie. You know, that's not a big spoiler, and so you kind of get some common tropes that go along with it. But it was fun. It's a very, very Ryan Reynolds movie where he makes references to other things that he's been in, other roles that he's played, other things that he's said. And it's not like super heavy handed, but you have some of these, you know, fun little things here and there. And it was well done. It was a good story. Despite being a little tropey, it was overall a pretty good story. I liked it. And it has an all Marvel leading cast aside from the younger version of him. True. And not MCU Marvel. We're speaking broadly in
the
Marvel.
Villain, was she in a Marvel movie?
Oh no, she's not. That's right.
But the main cast,
she is not. But you're the three main characters.
Now, Eric, we're going to cover this more in detail tomorrow night when we do our new show. But what are your quick nutshell thoughts on this movie?
So I came at it from two different perspectives. One as a movie fan who really likes Ryan Reynolds and really likes time travel and really likes a lot of the recent Netflix stuff. But then also as a parent whose son I know is going to be interested in this. And I had kind of mixed feelings about it. Regarding my son, there are some concerns I have about it that I think parents will care about.
Okay.
And it's interesting because a lot of people, they don't realize they do this, but there's this kind of a double standard. They say, oh, parents need to do a better job of parenting their kids these days, which is true. There's almost a complete lack of parenting. And then yet, when there's content that comes out that has some questionable representations of heroes and normalizes certain behavior, then people are like, oh, you're overreacting. Just let it go. It's just a movie, blah, blah, blah. Okay, it is just a movie, but when just a movie is so often the babysitter and the things that the kids get excited about, now they are kind of idolizing and normalizing this behavior. And then you wonder why they act that way. And then when they act that way, you get all pissed off about it. Well, garbage in, garbage out. This is what you're feeding them. This is what they're going to throw up in your lap. So,
right. You know, it's kind of funny when you started talking about that, I kind of glanced back at IMDb here to see what it was rated because I wasn't even sure. And I think it plays a little older than PG-13.
What is it rated TV 14?
PG-13.
Yeah, because it's a movie. Okay. Yep. Yeah. And that's the thing. Right. Like
it still feels like it's on the verge of, is it really PG-13 or not?
And to go back to what you were saying, Tim, and again, we're going to discuss it in more detail tomorrow night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern on Monday. Mind the time change now, GMT -5. I felt like it was a little tropey, and so there were a lot of the plot elements and themes that would fit to a younger audience, but then there was a lot of the language and the violence and bullying and stuff that was like not exactly what I would want to be promoting to my kid either. No.
And also dealing with the child dealing with the loss of his father.
Yeah,
and
so there were
everything
some
else.
deeper themes there too, but there was also like them not reacting well to those things too.
Yeah,
we'll take it apart a little bit more tomorrow, but overall, like, it was a good movie. It was not quite as good as I was hoping it would be, but I still enjoyed it and I still thought it was fun. I'd still recommend it.
And yeah, I'm looking forward to taking this apart more in detail tomorrow night, but I enjoyed it as well. I thought that I kind of forgave some things that really weren't quite scientifically thought out real well. But it was a fun popcorn movie. I looked at it as, and it wasn't meant to be a real high-tech sci-fi, let's make sure we get all the science right for this.
Like where
but one thing
you
I
look
thought
up in the trees and you see the trees and someone hits a button and the ship decloaks and you're like, wait a minute, what happened to the tops of all the trees?
Yeah. But the one thing that was cool about this movie, and I thought this was amazing, I got to look up the kid's name, Walker Scoble played an amazing young Adam, or young Ryan Reynolds in this case. I mean, the kid was
he really did.
on for how I would have thought Ryan Reynolds should have reacted as
he did this. I mean, Ryan Reynolds is has that quippy sense of humor that he has in basically every single movie. He's fundamentally typecast himself.
He has
because he does play kind of the same role. This kid captured pretty well that smart ass kid version of him. So
it felt heavy-handed.
No?
It felt like okay, you can tell Ryan Reynolds specifically wrote this dialogue himself. He specifically coached the kid in how to deliver it, which is fine. It didn't break anything for me. It was okay, but it was like
I thought it was meant to be.
It was definitely, but that's my point. Like,
Yeah.
it was so clearly meant to be this way that it's like,
Okay.
okay, yeah, I get it. He's being Ryan Reynolds. He's not being a character. But I guess I would have rather.
Sure.
It felt like it was a character rather than it felt like it was a kid doing a Ryan Reynolds impression, and he did a good Ryan Reynolds impression, but it felt like it was an impression. The kid did good though. Like I got no complaints about the kid.
Fair enough.
There is a bit of news related to this though, and that is that so the director was Sean Levy.
Yeah.
Sean Levy also directed Free Guy, which also had Ryan Reynolds. He also has executive producer, and director credits for Stranger Things, Last Man Standing, Cheaper by the Dozen 1 and 2, and the new reboot thing that's coming out, The Internship, Night at the Museum films, all sorts of stuff. He has a really a pretty good filmography behind him, along with some series that he's done. Clearly, he and Ryan Reynolds have hit it off. He will be the director for Deadpool 3.
I have mixed feelings about this. On one side, I know someone who worked on the first Deadpool movie and opted to not work on the second Deadpool movie because of the new director they were pulling in. It's good that...
Who's not Sean Levy.
Who's not Sean Levy.
Who's not Sean Levy.
And I enjoyed the second Deadpool movie. But it's good because Sean Levy, if he has a good rapport with Ryan Reynolds, maybe that'll work out for Deadpool 3, because Ryan Reynolds is very heavily involved with the creative side of Deadpool 1 and 2. In fact, one of the issues that this person didn't like about going into Deadpool 2 was this new director he felt like was a yes man for Ryan Reynolds, and that was going to take away from some of the stronger story structure that Ryan Reynolds then does a good job of laying over with these other things. But Sean Levy is good on his own. So that helps. But then, like, you look at things like Free Guy and you're like, yeah, let's get Sean Levy in there. And then you look at Night at the Museum Part 17 and you're like, or who else is available that weekend?
Well, but I mean, also keep in mind, I mean, if you look at them, and I haven't seen all the Night at the Museum films, but I've seen a pretty good amount of the guys, at least more popular filmography representation. And even if it was something that I really didn't particularly like, just kind of thinking back at the directing, like, okay, the directing was pretty good. You have a good mix of, like, the Night at the Museum films, you have a good mix of effects, live action stuff, you know, the when they were like miniature people to when they're full-size people and all that. So the directing of those things was pretty good. And So we just, and sometimes I do the same thing too. Like, oh wow, they were involved in that. Oh, I don't like that. Therefore, this person must suck. So sometimes I have to remind myself, like, okay, take a step back. I might not have liked it, but was, whatever we're talking about, was the writing good? Was the directing good? Was, what was it, and why didn't I like it? Simply because it wasn't my thing, because the acting was bad, because whatever.
And that's the key thing. Like the Adam Project, it was well directed. Sean Levy did a good job with it.
Yeah.
I have some issues with kind of the story concept and some of the writing. That's not on Sean Levy.
Yeah.
So who's writing Deadpool 3?
So I'm
right. Yeah. You got to learn a lot of that, a writer.
Yeah. And I, not to dwell on this because that's not what this show's
Deadpool,
about.
So it's
but
still good. Go ahead.
Well, but yeah, I mean, with what you mentioned, Eric, with Ryan Reynolds, and for as much as we love Ryan Reynolds, I can absolutely see him being a very heavy-handed creator. Because, and I don't necessarily mean it in a bad way, but I think there can be some outcomes of that because he is so like upfront. He's very like, this is my opinion of how this character should be done, which again is kind of, it's become all Ryan Reynolds characters now, which is fine because I appreciate that stereotype in every movie that he's been in. But yeah, I imagine he's kind of like, creatively intimidating a little bit for folks who might be on the set thinking, wow, maybe it should really go this way, but Ryan keeps saying it has to go that way.
Part of it
well,
is he's legitimately funny. So like what he comes up with, it's not crap.
Oh, he is.
Like it's good stuff. You would be stupid not to take it.
Yeah.
And he does have a history of collaborating well with people. Like he's not a jerk. And
sure,
he really has taken ownership of that Deadpool character. Like that Deadpool character would not be what it is if it were not for his specific creative involvement in the direction of that character. He helped sculpt that character. Who better to bring on?
And he's a marketing
there's
genius
that too.
Oh, he has been, yeah.
I mean, especially he did do a lot of stuff for the first Deadpool movie, but for the second Deadpool movie, he was everywhere marketing the crap out of everything in like weird things that you didn't even think were like Deadpool ads. And then all of a sudden it is. And, but he does his thing for Mint Mobile. He does his thing for Aviation Gin. Actually, darn it, I didn't catch.
Did you see the commercial for the Adam Project?
Aviation Gin. I saw the commercial for the Adam Project,
Mark Ruffalo,
but I did not
bringing in Christopher Lloyd.
Brown.
Yeah,
Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah.
Which
I did
was
not
great.
spot, like his last several movies have had bottles of Aviation Gin somewhere in the movie, and I did not spot it in Adam Project. Did you guys?
No, I did not. Yeah.
Okay. I'm sure it's in there somewhere because he has managed to put Aviation Gin everywhere. Even though he's not even an owner anymore, but they basically are still paying him out the eyeballs for marketing.
Right. Okay, well, moving along here. Tim, you saw something called Domino Masters on Fox. Tell us about Domino Masters.
So, we've all watched Lego Masters. Lego Masters is pretty cool, creative. You get these great personalities and kind of a cheesy setup, but you really, the centerpiece of it is these competition builds
some of
that
which
they
are
have,
spectacular,
which are pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they really are. So, also on Fox, they just premiered a few days ago, Domino Masters. And so basically the same principle to build things out of dominoes. You know how you have like, you put all your dominoes in a row and you push one over and then they all fall. And so they're making these really, really huge, elaborate things, like doing really cool things with dominoes. And, dominoes can go upstairs and they involve other props that do things. So like a domino will fall and trigger something else that will then, have a ball go down a corkscrew, which then hits a domino down there. And yes. So some really cool things. The problem is that it is the setup of it is even cheesier than Lego Masters. And I wasn't quite sure that was even possible. Eric Stonestreet is the host. And I really like Eric Stonestreet as an actor. He was from Modern Family.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
Cam from Modern Family. Mm-hmm. Really, really great actor. Very funny guy. it's just the writing of the whole facilitation hosting thing is just way overboard, and sometimes the personalities of the competitors. I mean, the past season of Lego Masters, I think that they were overdoing the personalities of some of the competitors, and they really pushed it even more with Domino Masters. So it's interesting. And what they're doing with this is they're basically, these first few episodes are setting up a tournament. So there's 4 teams participating, 2 teams get to move forward, 2 teams don't. And the next episode will be 4 new teams, 2 teams will move forward, 2 won't. And so then they'll eventually kind of create either one big competition, or they'll end up doing brackets or something. I don't know. But you know, it's one of those things that, okay, we watched most of it and we had it DVR'd. We will probably continue DVRing it and just fast forward through all the commentary, go straight to the builds, like the last 15 minutes of the show, watch the builds, see how they all went, and that's it.
I mean, I love Lego Masters.
Everything else is just too above.
Even Lego Masters, overboard. You kind of want to do that sometimes. So if this is even worse,
there's a lot of shows that you fast forward a lot of that stuff out just because I don't need all the fluff. I mean,
even stuff like The Voice and American Idol and, you know, American Ninja Warrior and stuff like that. But I have to ask, I mean,
especially
Domino's, like there's only, maybe I'm just ignorant of it and I'm not really truly imagining what it is they're doing with it. But there are only so many things you can do with Domino's. Like, is it?
Oh, but there's something about it. I could watch Domino's
you'd be
fall
amazed.
For a long. I mean, it's fascinating.
Okay,
you know,
it really is.
I'll check it out. I guess.
I mean,
there's some cool things.
Domino's on YouTube.
And
seeing what people did creatively to do that.
You know, and there's a certain like visual ASMR sort of aspect to that, and I get that, but I guess. Doing and I can sit there and watch someone build Legos, and that's fine too. But then Lego Masters is a whole different level of creativity and competition. And I guess, I don't know, I'm a little more skeptical about the domino thing, but I'll check it out, I guess. I don't know.
It's I mean, it's worth taking a look at. No.
Okay. There we go.
You should have led with that, Tim.
Burying the lead, like really deep down, like digging a coffin for it.
Okay. Well, speaking of something I think Eric's going to recommend, Upload just came back for season 2 on Amazon Prime. I haven't watched it yet. I just finished rewatching season 1 because I wanted to be ready for season 2. And then I forgot Upload season 2 came out. Was it Friday?
Well, it was Friday, but I kept checking in starting at 8 p.m. Thursday night to see if Amazon would drop it early, and they did. And I almost binge watched the entire season before it officially launched, and I had to stop myself and say, wait a minute, Eric, pace yourself.
I started binge watching something else we'll talk about in a few minutes, but I'm looking forward to seeing season 2. I forgot a lot of the little details in season 1. It was funny, as I was going through season 1, some of the comedy aspect of it struck me as being a little heavy-handed when I went through it the second time.
The bathroom scene in the pilot episode especially.
Oh, yeah, that was one of them.
And honestly, when I first watched it, that worried me. I almost stopped watching the series because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be what the humor's like. And instead, it wasn't like that for the rest of the series. And it ended up being my favorite series of like the last 3 years to come out.
It was a good series, yeah. So does season 2 continue that trend?
So I probably should have spaced it out so I could digest it a little better. So I've seen season 1 at least 3 times now, maybe 4.
Okay.
Season 2 takes the story in a little bit different direction. And there hasn't been a lot of story payoff yet intentionally. So I should probably hold off on commenting on the season overall until I finish it. It is good. It introduces some new themes. So one of the things I liked about the first one, which we're going to talk about soon on Media Chatter, there are a lot of different themes. Life and death and immortality and technology and advertising and corporate takeover and customer service and the difficulty of modern relationships and online dating. Like there's just this long list of themes, and you're like, holy crap, it's all over the place. Except it's not. It's not all over the place. It actually addresses each of those in a very manageable way and in a very compelling way. This season, there's a couple more they throw in, so that there aren't as many different things going on. And it's good. Like it's a good, solid continuation of the first one. I think the first one stands out like really strongly. And this second one is definitely a sophomore season. Like it's, I want to see where they're taking it. And I think once I do, then I can come back and speak more to it. I'm very happy with it so far. It's one of those things where you kind of have to take a show like this and then send the characters off in different directions to explore and then bring them back together later on.
Okay.
Kind of like how they did the Star Wars sequel trilogy, but the wrong way. So when the characters come back together a little bit more, like I'm just getting to that point in the season now where they're starting to come back, and then some things are happening, and they're very interesting things that are happening. And so I'm really getting into that now. But it's a slow burn at the beginning of the season.
Okay. I mean, a lot of things happen at the end of the first season that things kind of wrapped up the entire arc of that first season to go in a whole different direction.
Yeah. There were two really big things. One was kind of the mystery of what he was trying to figure out. And then there was kind of a cliffhanger that a character sprung on him in the very, 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 very last scene.
Yeah, and I totally forgot about that until I'm like, oh my God, I forgot you.
Yeah, well, you see that in
the
teaser, in the trailer for season 2, and you're like, oh, I forgot all about that. And that plays out in a really interesting way, and it's going to blow up before too long. So you're just kind of waiting for that time bomb to go off while these other things are happening. So yeah, it's good. Listen, I've said it before, Upload, I think I can't say it's my favorite show of the last 3 years. That's maybe too much, but it is one of my favorite shows of the last 3 years. And there've been a lot of shows, a lot of stuff that's streamed. It's in my top 5 easily. And I probably rewatched it more than anything else. There haven't been a lot of comedies or lighthearted things that have come out. And this has a lot of heart, and it has some deep things, but it also has some light and fluffy things. And it's a fun series.
Yeah, I agree.
It's
I would highly recommend if you haven't watched it, check out season 1 if you have a Prime account, and then roll right into season 2 because I'm looking forward to starting it this week. Very good. We're all watching BattleBots, and this past week they got to the end of the regular season and heading into the round of 32 playoffs. I, for one, have loved this season. There's been some great battles, some epic explosions, some epic destruction. Bots been torn apart in 2-3 pieces type thing.
Yeah.
It's fire and explosions, just so
season.
Many.
Yeah.
Bots hitting the ceiling of the battle box.
Yeah. And some new entrants, some old people coming back that I wasn't aware of because I only started watching last season. But yeah, it looks to be a pretty strong tournament. My only complaint, and Tim knows about this, my only complaint with BattleBots so far is Rusty. Rusty is in my opinion, a waste of my time.
Rusty did not make the playoffs. So for those who know what a bye is in any sort of a competition, basically if you're up against Rusty, you got the bye.
Definitely. But otherwise, though, I mean, really strong competitors, really good, round of 32, I think. There is a bracket you can print out online. I believe it's at battlebots.com.
Yeah, I've got to download that. I should probably...
I got to do it too and kind of make out my bracket.
Another window.
Last year, my bracket was horrible, but
I did okay.
My bracket got blown in the first round.
But a lot of your stuff was better after that, I think.
It was. A lot of my predictions later on were good. I mean, except the losing the person or losing the bot that I thought was actually going to win it, but my runner-up actually did make it.
Okay.
I think it's good with the bracket. Like I enjoy downloading it, or I use my iPad and I just annotate over top of it with a pen. But I think that, go through the first level or two and then redo it with like who's actually left over. Because a lot of times you'll get a really good bot and it'll be up against a crappy bot. But if something happens where, the bot bounces up in the air and something becomes disconnected, you're done. So
mechanical failure, whatever.
A lot of upsets, and I think that it's more fun if you do your initial bracket, and then when you get through like the first things, and you can do a reset. Nope, nobody cares. You're not playing against anybody. Hit the reset button like halfway through, and then reevaluate based on who's left for like the last parts of the tournament. It's more fun that way. And join us in our Discord server. And post your brackets there. We'll set up a channel or a place where people can do it, and we'll monitor it.
Absolutely.
We'll keep the conversation going.
Very good. Very good. Now, Tim, you mentioned this one last week, and I know I've started watching. I think Eric started watching as well too. The Endgame. On NBC. And you were right. This was a good series to start watching. I think it's intriguing. It does feel a lot like The Blacklist, at least from what I've seen so far, with just a female in that role instead of a male. But I'm in so far. I like. Have you watched it yet, Eric? Have you started watching the Endgame? Okay. And what are your thoughts initially?
I was hooked by the end of the first episode. It was, I think Tim may have even downplayed it a little bit. I love it. I think that Morena Baccarin does a really good job. I think the rest of the cast does a good job as well. Mm-hmm. And it's been interesting to see the different layers of complexity of the plot. I kind of felt like, okay, well, they've overcomplicated it now. So the plot's going to become silly, so I'm going to focus on character development or something else instead. You kind of sometimes have to say, okay, well, they kind of screwed up over here, so I'm going to go over there instead and look at it through a different lens. But it really hasn't. Like the complexities of the plot have held up, and I really like it. I'm fully caught up, and as soon as I see a new episode drops, I watch it.
Yeah, I'm not fully caught up yet, but I've only seen the first episode. But the first episode did hook me really hard, so I'm looking forward to seeing more of that.
Was it the first 3, and then the 4th one dropped recently? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And as soon as I saw the 4th one dropped, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm watching this now, like today.
Yeah, I think I watched the first one on Peacock, and I've got the other ones now on my DVR recording weekly, so I'm in.
It's good.
So it is. It's very good. So we're at about a half hour now. We're kind of blitz through the rest of our stuff here. We don't have anything really high profile yet here to finish out the show. One thing I'm a big fan of is I watch Formula One, and there's a documentary series on Netflix called The Drive to Survive. They just did season 4. So they'll recap the last season, and they do 10 episodes, and they really dig into each team or a certain aspect of what was going on in the season between either drivers or a team or a owner of the team or what happened. And it's kind of a no holds barred kind of reveal all, really in-depth documentary, which I love about this. And you see the inside stuff going on, and it's it's not filtered. There's swearing. It's people get heated when there's auto racing stuff going on, and you're in the heat of the moment. And it's people are blatantly brutal with what they're saying, but it's cool to hear what's going on behind the scenes, because there's millions of dollars at stake in Formula One, and these guys are getting paid a lot of money, and the teams have a lot of money behind them. In fact, one of the teams, the U.S. team, Haas Racing, they were sponsored last year by an oligarch from Russia, because his son wanted to drive. So, if your daddy has a lot of money and you pay for a lot of the team, you get your son to drive. And he was doing horribly. And now he's not on the team because they've since disenfranchised themselves from him in Russia and everything else. So, but it's called The Drive to Survive. It's season 4 on Netflix. I highly recommend it if you're into Formula One and or motorsports in general. I've binged through 9 of the 10 episodes already. So I'm almost done.
Nice.
Eric, you said you watched the after party finale.
Yeah, I got all the way through it, and it was satisfying.
I'm still not through it. It's fun. I'm about probably halfway through. I'm still enjoying it.
It's I feel like shows like this recently, we've gotten through to the end, and especially if it's like a murder mystery sort of thing, and it's been kind of like, okay, I guess. And I kind of felt that way with Only Murders in the Building. I loved that series. The ending, I felt it was a little bit predictable, and then the final episode was like, okay, it's okay. But the series itself was phenomenal. And then The Woman in the House,
they did a great job
across the street from the girl in the window. Loved the series all the way up to the finale. Saw the finale, I'm like, oh hell no. that was.
Oh, okay. I
haven't finished that
either.
Finish it. Finish it. And there's going to be a season 2.
I'm gonna.
And it looks like maybe the season 2 might be good, but like. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about when you get to the finale, and it's okay because the journey was worth it. But this I thought was good. After Party, the finale was very satisfying, and I thought it was a good series all the way through. And even so, it's one of those things where it doesn't even matter who the killer was. This show was it was a good show, and it was fun. And then I also saw the finale I binged the whole Space Force season 2. It was good. I think it was more well written than the first season. I don't think it was necessarily as epic as the first season. Like the overall story arc, I thought was very low key, but it was still a good show, and it was still fun.
Okay, cool. Neither one of those have I finished, but I've started all of them. But
they're worth finishing. They're good
eventually. Okay. Tim, you're still working your way through BSG?
Yeah. I've gotten to, I think, episode 12 of season 3.
Okay.
Really just still continue to be solidly impressed with it. I love the story. I love everything that they're doing with it. And really the only other thing for me is Beat Saber did an update a few days ago. Have you guys played it yet?
I have not played the new episode or new.
No, I've got the old hacked version so that I can do custom songs. So I'm going to have to I've got to decide whether to overwrite that or not for the new version.
Gotcha. They do. So you have a slate of new songs in it, and they do some different game mechanics in it where you are, if you've happened to play like Supernatural, the fitness app that they have on there, where there is a mode with that where you're basically following a particular flow where they, kind of have these waves that you have to follow with your controllers and stuff. That's something that they integrate into this periodically in Beat Saber, and where you hit one block and then you're having to follow this particular flow with your saber to then hit another block. Usually it just begins and then ends with one, and that's it. There are some that you're like hitting multiple blocks along the way. It can be a challenge because you're doing that with one hand while you're just like regularly hitting blocks with another hand, or you're doing two of these. You're doing one with each hand, and they're offset, and they're both different, and you're having to do still completely different things.
Oh, cool.
It's it's a different element. It's not like, kind of the Fast and Furious, like hack and slash type of thing. So you have to kind of change it up a little bit, your mentality with it. But I played them today, and they were pretty good.
Cool.
They were pretty challenging.
I'll have to update that. Yeah, I haven't been back on my Oculus lately because I've been playing a lot of my PS5 because Sony released Gran Turismo 7 last week, and I've just been solidly in that. It's the same game. It was back from like version 2 and 3 when it was really good, and they got away from that, went to like a more online thing, the last version, which I really didn't like. This one is solidly back in the original Gran Turismo camp. You have missions, you get cars, you stock your garage up, you upgrade your cars. Like usual, the physics are amazing. It's just, it's a very, very cool racing simulator, like it always has been. So I've been playing that quite a bit. And that's about it. I guess that brings us to the end of this episode. So, anything you guys have watched that you want us to talk about, let us know, or something that we should be watching that we haven't been catching up on, please tell us. You can check us out on Discord. You can let us know there.
Down in the comments below here if you're watching this on YouTube.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, YouTube. Yeah. If you're watching us here, you can do that. Otherwise, Eric, why don't you
All
take us home?
right. You know, I just, as you were talking about that, I added a BattleBots channel to our Discord server and posted the link that will take you directly to the bracket so you can download it, annotate it yourself, and post it back there. And we can kind of follow how we're each doing throughout the end of the season here through the tournament. To do that, or talk about the upcoming Kenobi show or the Moon Knight show that's coming up, or anything else that's come out on Netflix or HBO Max or Disney Plus or whatever. randomchatter.com/Discord. If you've got a Discord account, that's an invite link. It'll take you right into our server, and there's all kinds of different channels and discussions going on there that you can hop into. So be sure to do that. And like we were saying, you can subscribe on YouTube. Go to youtube.com/randomchatter, hit the subscribe and like buttons, and you can even get notified of when we go live or when we post new content. We are going to be structuring the YouTube shows a little bit differently here pretty soon. We're going to be releasing smaller shows scattered throughout the week. We are experimenting with that starting either next week or the week after. I think we're going to start with it next week. So there'll be a little bit of a change in the format, but hopefully this will be an enhanced experience for our YouTube viewers and also for our audio podcast listeners as well. Don't forget to go to randomchatter.com/store. And because if you stocked up on Random Chatter, Force Chatter, Media Chatter t-shirts, or t-shirts from any of the other shows because it's warming up, and then you got hit with this snow like we did here this weekend, you might want to pick up one more sweatshirt just as the spring is coming in here. So it's a great way to help out the network, all kidding aside. And then you get something out of it, and it's actually a really good quality product. So check that out as well. That's going to do it for this episode of Random Chatter. We're going to be back tomorrow night, Monday, March 14th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That's GMT -5 now that we've had the time change in the U.S. And we are going to be discussing the Atom Project in more detail. And then the week after that, I think we're going to be talking about Upload. And then otherwise, we will be back next Sunday for more Random Chatter. So tune in then. And until then,